Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering draft video. It's Al here with you, and this is how to draft MTG. In this video, we're looking at Black-Red Lizards in Bloomburrow Limited. This is another Tier 1 deck, one of the best performing archetypes in the format. As always, please click like, click subscribe to support the channel, and you can leave a comment just to say hello or to give me some feedback. Let me know what you want to see in future videos. Always love to hear from you. Black-Red Lizards is an aggro deck, an aggressive deck. The theme is opponent life loss. That sounds like something I'm into. You want to play creatures early to damage your opponent and trigger your payoff cards. This is a get ahead, stay ahead strategy. This deck does not play well from behind, so make sure that you are the aggressor in the matchup. And like any aggressive deck, you want to push through opposing blockers with combat tricks and removal. The key uncommons for Black-Red Lizards: one of the best uncommons in the set, Thought Stalker Warlock. 2 and a black for a 2/2 lizard with menace. When it enters, your opponent discards a card, but if they lost life this turn, you get to choose which card they discard, which is really, really nice. This deck is obviously the best at enabling that ability, so Thought Stalker Warlock is even more premium here. Downwind Ambusher, another one of Black's best uncommons, 3 and a black for a 4/2 with flash. When it enters, choose one. Target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn, or destroy target creature an opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. So all the usual strengths of this card: it can help you win a combat, it can ambush a blocker, it's really good against creatures with 1 toughness. But an added bonus in Black-Red Lizards is that your opponent knows that you want to attack them just to deal damage to turn on your payoff card. So if you come in with 2 or 3 creatures, they're almost always going to block one, thinking you may not have a trick or anything like that, you're just trying to get damage in. So that second ability of the Ambusher, destroy a creature that was dealt damage this turn, is going to be even more relevant in a deck like this. And of course, we got the Signpost uncommon, Fireglass Mentor Black-Red for a 2/1 lizard. At the beginning of your second main phase, if an opponent lost life this turn, exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them. Until end of turn, you may play that card. Really important in an aggressive deck to make sure that you are not running out of steam. You can very easily end up in a spot where you've got 1 card left in your hand and it's a land, and you're looking at your opponent's 3 cards and their board is pretty stable. It's hard for you to attack them now, and it's just a matter of time before you lose the game. So having something like Fireglass Mentor that can give you extra cards to play later in the game, hugely important in an aggressive deck like this. The usual suspects in premium removal: Feed the Cycle, 1 and a black. As an additional cost, pay a black or forage, destroy target creature or planeswalker at instant speed. Rabid Gnaw, 1 and a red for an instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 and deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. At its best in aggressive strategy, since that extra point of power can push some more damage for you. And Fell, 1 and a black for the sorcery, destroy target creature. Wix Patrol is next, 4 black for the 5/3. When it enters, you mill 3 cards, and when you do, target creature an opponent controls gets -X until end of turn, where X is the greatest mana value among cards in your graveyard. Not at its very best in this deck, but still just a really, really solid card. You can't make an aggro omelet without breaking a few eggs. You're going to have a few creatures in the graveyard that died somehow. This is going to be able to kill a creature of your opponent's almost all the time, and it's got a nice aggressive stat line to boot. Consumed by Greed is 1 black for an instant. Target opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control, and if you gift them a card, you get to return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Most of the time, you're not going to be gifting in a deck like this. You just want to get their big blocker out of the way so you can keep pressuring them. And Flame Cash Gecko is 1 and a red for a 2/2 lizard. When it enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, you add a black and red mana. This can be responsible for some really, really impressive starts where you play your 1 mana, 1/1 with menace, attack them, play this, and play another 2-drop. Your opponent's way behind, and you get to press the advantage for the rest of the game from there. It also has a nice ability of 1 and a red, discard a card to draw a card, which can help you keep the gas flowing later in the game when you run out of things to do. If you have this or similar cards in your deck, make sure that you hold a couple of lands in your hand as the game goes long so that you have fuel for this effect. In terms of key commons, the big one for Black-Red Lizards is Scales of Shale. This is 2 and a black for an instant. It costs 1 less to cast for each lizard you control. And it says target creature gets +2/+0 and gains lifelink and indestructible until end of turn. This is the reason to be in this deck at common. It will very often only cost 1 mana, and because a lot of your creatures are going to have menace, your opponent's going to be incentivized to double block, which means you might be able to kill both of their blockers with Scales of Shale, and your creature will survive no matter what. It's also a nice protection spell that you can hold up on their turn. So your opponent's going to have to decide, do I want to deploy another blocker, or do I want to just cast a removal spell and get rid of your problematic creature? And then they end up spending their turn casting that removal spell just for you to spend 1 mana and save your guy. Huge card for this deck, and it comes around the table a little bit later because not all decks want it. So you should be seeing this pick 6 and beyond. At common, we also get some nice premium removal. Take out the trash. It's 1 and a red for an instant. Deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If you control a raccoon, you may discard a card to draw a card. Nice little added bonus there. Savor is 1 and a black for an instant. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn, and you create a food. This deck won't always have use for the food token, but the fact that you can gain 3 life actually might be the difference between winning and losing a race against another aggro deck. So Savor still premium in red-black. And Nocturnal Hunger, 2 and a black for an instant, destroy target creature. If the gift wasn't promised, you lose 2 life. The gift is a food, which you almost never want to give them because you're trying to beat them down. If you're ahead like you should be, you won't mind losing the 2 life. If you're behind, you're probably losing anyways, so that's okay. Can't win them all. But Nocturnal Hunger still excellent in this deck. A couple of really nice enablers for the life loss theme. Ravine Raider is single black for a 1/1 lizard with menace, and you can pay 1 and a black to give it +1/+1 until end of turn. And Agate Blade Assassin is 1 and a black for a 1/3 lizard. When it attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. These are the cards that you want to have at the bottom of your curve. You want to be playing these early in the game to enable all of your other cards as the game goes on. Ravine Raider in particular is really, really powerful, really annoying. I've had games where this has done upwards of 10 damage by itself, and the pump ability keeps it relevant in the late game. Both of these are coming around the table quite late in the draft, so another nice little reward for being in the black-red deck. Some other key comments for the deck. Alania's Pathmaker is 3 and a red for a 4/2 Otter Wizard. When it enters, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. Just a great way to top off your mana curve to make sure that you don't run out of steam. And because it lets you play the card until your next turn, you're almost always going to get to play that card, which is really nice. Glide Dive Duo is 4 and a black for a 3/3 bat lizard with flying. And when it enters, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Really important to have cards like this in your deck because when your opponent starts to stabilize at 3 or 4 life, you need ways to get past their blockers and deal damage directly to them, and this does both of those things. Daggerfang Duo is 2 and a black for a 3/2 rat squirrel with death touch. When it enters, you may mill 2 cards. This deck doesn't care all that much about milling, but if you do end up with some forge stuff, you'll be happy with this. Just a 3 mana 3/2 with death touch is a nice aggressive creature, and you'll be happy enough to put a couple of these in the deck. In terms of rares that you might pick up early that will pull you into the black-red lizards archetype, we have Hired Claw, single red for a 1/2 lizard. Whenever you attack with 1 or more lizards, it deals 1 damage to target opponent. You can pay 1 and a red to put a +1/+1 counter on Hired Claw, activate only if an opponent lost life this turn and only once each turn. So this card is really, really quite excellent by itself. The way this ends up working out is you attack them, it deals them a damage right away, and then if you have 2 mana available, you have the threat of activation of putting that +1/+1 counter on it, so it makes their blocks quite difficult, and of course also enables all of your payoff cards that care about you dealing damage to your opponent. Gev Scaled Scorch is black-red for a 3/2 legendary lizard. It's got ward, pay 2 life, and says other creatures you control enter with an additional +1/+1 counter on them for each opponent who lost life this turn. Whenever you cast a lizard spell, Gev deals 1 damage to target opponent. So the way this works is you cast a lizard spell, Gev deals them a damage, and then that lizard enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So it's buffing your team and doing the damage thing, and it's a 2-drop, and it's a lizard. It's almost like they designed this card for the Black-Red Lizards deck. Valley Flamecaller is 2 and a red for a 3/3 lizard. It says if a lizard, mouse, otter, or raccoon you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much +1 instead. So kind of a outside-the-box way of pumping up your lizards, and a very aggressive card. Byway Barterer is 2 and a red for a 3/3 raccoon with menace. It says when you expend 4, you may discard your hand, and if you do, draw 2 cards. Again, as we've said, aggro decks like Black-Red Lizards are going to end up empty-handed a lot of the time, at which point this is kind of just a free draw 2 if you can spend 4 mana. So it's quite desirable in the late game, but it's also quite good in the early game. 3 mana, 3/3 menace is exactly what a deck like this wants. Darkstar Augur is 2 and a black for a 2/3 bat warlock with offspring of a black. Has flying, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library, put it into your hand, and you lose life equal to its mana value. Another way for this deck not to run out of steam, and if you're playing a low curve, which you should be in a deck like this, you're not too worried about the life loss. It even has flying to help get past those pesky blockers. Iridescent Vine Lasher is single black for a 1/2 lizard with offspring 2. It says whenever a land you control enters, it deals 1 damage to target opponent. If you play this early, it's just going to do a ton of damage over the course of the game. Your damage matters payoff cards are almost always going to be turned on, and if you ever play it for 3 mana with its offspring cost, your opponent's going to be in for a world of hurt. Emberheart Challenger is 1 and a red for a 2/2 mouse with haste. It has prowess, and it has a valiant ability. When it becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. So just an aggressive 2-drop that has some utility in the late game, and it helps you not to run out of steam. Quite good with Scales of Shale. Valley Rockcaller is 1 and a black for a 1/3 squirrel with menace. When it attacks, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control. So a great enabler. It's hard to block. It's got menace. And as you build up a bigger board, this is going to become a bigger threat as the game goes on. So Black-Red Lizards, one of the best decks in the format. It's got great removal, and it's got the nice advantage that Scales of Shale, Ravine Raider, Agate Blade Assassin, and Alania's Pathmaker, some of the key comments for the deck, go pretty late in the draft, pick 6 and beyond. So if you can start the draft with some good black removal, and you find that red's kind of flowing to you a little bit, you can count on seeing these cards as the draft goes along. So just keep your options open to pivot into black-red. In terms of cons, as I've said 100 times in this video, you can run out of cards to play. So make sure you have ways to get extra cards as the game goes on, and you need ways to push through your opponent's big blockers. So you need removal spells that say destroy target creature, and you need good combat tricks like Scales of Shale. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please click like and click subscribe if you want to support the channel, and leave a comment, say hello, let me know what you want to see in the future. You can always reach me at howtodraftmtg@gmail.com if you have any questions or want to inquire about private coaching. Until next time, bye for now.